Rural China is paying the cost of the country's rapid economic gains. Separation of families, disappearing villages, and left behind children and seniors. Will families ever return to their home soil? Can a village look after its elderly residents? How can our country protect its children from abuse and neglect? Several girls have fallen victims of rape. From north to south, join Feng Xin in search of rural recovery on CCTV News.
One in 6 people here in China is older than 60, and that makes China one of the world's oldest nations in terms of its population. While the situation is especially noticeable in the countryside. That's because most young people leave to work in cities, leaving the elderly behind, often without support or care. One village in central China's Henan province is trying to help its elderly through a new financial cooperative. Feng Xin has more.
Senior citizens in Haotang these days get together for the annual temple fair. But life wasn't so peaceful a few years ago. Several seniors committed suicide after becoming trapped by poverty and disease. They didn't want to be financial burdens for their children who were working hard in cities. Hu Jing knows too well the hardships that Haotang residents have had to face because she's been the village chief for a decade. Hu says that 70% of the village's land is in the mountains and forests and not suitable for farming. Young residents have had no choice but to seek a living elsewhere. Starting a business wasn't an option either because farmers rarely could get loans from banks.
Let's not look at how well banks have studied policies in favor of farmers, but how many are really willing to lend them money. Very few indeed. Why are villages lagging behind in development? Because they're unable to get any loans to invigorate their economies. They're unable to make any value out of their assets.
Haotang Village started a finance cooperative in 2009 and encouraged residents over 60 to join as permanent members. The basic idea is to encourage village seniors to deposit their idle savings in the co-op. Then young villagers can apply for loans to start a business if they can find 2 senior members as guarantors. The co-op's interest income will be distributed to the senior members as dividends. All the processes are examined and approved by an elected board of directors and monitored by a board of supervisors. Xu Daguo and his wife are 2 of the earliest to join the co-op. They say that depositing money in the co-op was the easiest way to invest their savings.
A 50,000 yuan deposit can generate 4,000 yuan of interest a year. My wife and I have deposited more than 100,000 yuan, so we can receive about 10,000 yuan of interest every year.
Each family in Haotang Village still owns a couple of hectares of forest where they grow tea and chestnuts, but their crops only generate a small amount of money. The primary source of income for people here comes from guest houses and restaurants. The village alone has more than 70, mostly operated by area residents who had once sought jobs in cities. Yuan Dehong left Haotang for 11 years to work as a chef. He decided to use his cooking skills and open a village restaurant featuring Hunan cuisine. Yuan borrowed 100,000 RMB from the co-op in 2011 to renovate his old house.
The finance co-op only lends money to residents of this village, not any outsiders, and it won't lend to anyone who's already in debt with a bank or doesn't own a piece of land. Our guarantee system is quite good. All the members are older than 60 years old. If you don't pay back in time, they will come after you.
Li Changping is the mastermind behind Haotang's transformation. Before Li joined academia, he had served as a township governor for many years.
中国的乡村是一个自治社会，它是自治社会，它不跟城市不一样，城市是。
Rural China has always been an autonomous society. Unlike cities that already have complete government services, villages nowadays are empty shells, like zombies. We wanted to reunite farmers through finance or money. A built-in financing system would allow farmers to mortgage their land and have more motivation to improve their life. It will also allow a village to provide more services, such as purchasing, pension care, and poverty reduction.
China has issued various financial reform policies to encourage rural finance co-ops in the past decade. But few government departments have been given clear jurisdictions to support and oversee these rural organizations.
Our co-op doesn't have a mom or dad. The Commerce Department won't register us, nor will the Banking Department. Since we are a designated reform trial area and receive a lot of attention, we were able to register under the Civil Affairs Department as a non-profit organization. What if a new policy comes up one day to make us illegal? If that happens, our village will be broken.
Hu Jing says there's never been a single bad loan in the past 7 years, but the co-op still faces uncertain future. As for now, 90% of Haotang's senior citizens have joined the co-op. Feng Xin, CCTV, in Xinyang, Henan Province.
And more on the rural topics. Joining me here in the studio is our reporter Feng Xin. Good evening, Feng Xin.
Good evening.
Obviously, these farmers have their local solutions to local problems, but the aging problem is a national problem. How serious is it?
Well, the problem is really severe indeed. Well, the latest official numbers show that people over the age of 60 account for 15% of China's population, while those over 65 account for 10%. And by international conventions, countries that have 10% of their population over 60 years and 7% over 65 can be considered as aged societies. Obviously, China has well passed that threshold. And when you narrow this down to China's rural areas, not only do they have 20% more elderly people than in China's cities, they're also more dependent. In cities, there are about 10 people of working age, say between the ages of 15 and 65, for every one person over 65 years. And in rural areas, that ratio is 7 to 1. And considering this was already the case 6 years ago, so you can imagine how critical China's aging problems are going to be.
You mentioned one solution for those aging problems is to provide financial instruments for the rural problems, especially in financing. But how widespread is this kind of a cooperative institution here in China, and what are the problems they're facing now?
Well, actually, they've been around for more than a decade. China's first village finance co-op appeared in Jilin province in 2004, and 4 years later, China's banking regulatory body issued a document to encourage more rural financial organizations. However, other official departments and local governments have been slow to catch on, and eventually in 2012, the banking regulatory body suspended issuing licenses to rural financial organizations. And as of now, only 49 co-ops have a financial license. And across China, more than 5,000 rural finance co-ops, like the one in Haotang village, have registered on the other government departments, such as commerce or civil affairs. They all more or less face insufficient legal and policy support, like in Haotang village. And in the 2014 #1 document, which is an annual official paper addressing China's rural issues, the central government laid out several principles to guide and encourage rural financial organizations. These include, for example, membership systems, restrictions of loans and deposits within a village to keep financial risks low, floating interest returns, and democratic supervision within a village itself. Experts say as long as these rural organizations stick to these principles, they should enjoy healthy growth. So local government departments should not intervene in or ignore these autonomous organizations. Now you can find interactive games about how these village co-ops work and a virtual reality video of Haotang village by scanning the code at bottom of your screen. And you can also find more of my reporting on rural recovery from this multimedia collection. That's for me. Back to you, Zoe.
Thank you so much for your reporting, Feng Xin.